Lindsey. Today, I feel such gratitude just for this incredible, influential, awesome woman that's coming on my podcast today. So, Lindsey, I haven't gone and actually done a whole bunch of research on you. I've only written like a tiny bit of what I found on your website link that you sent, because I like to be surprised and sort of find out the testimony within the session. But Lindsey Frances is a coaching psychologist, clinical sophrologist, and a behavior change specialist with 20 years experience, which is crazy because you look like someone that's like 21 or something. I'm like, what, did you start when you were born? And so Lindsey works almost like at the intersection of leadership and business development and human transformation. And she's also got her own podcast called Rich, Simple, Human. And so we've been trying to connect for what feels like months, but it's probably been a couple of weeks. And Ian Dibb from Wayfinder Advisory was the person that introduced us to each other. And so we rescheduled, and I believe that it was actually a God-ordained delay for us to not meet when we met and reschedule and kind of get to the point where we met, because the day that Lindsey met or messaged me was asking me, are we still meeting? We've got the meeting in the diary. Is a day when I had a number of massive life events hit, and then there is this woman, this powerful mind of Christ warrior person coming through, sending me voice notes with prayers and wisdom and connecting me with people. And I'm just there like, oh my gosh, like God is so good. He just sends people from out of the blue, out of nowhere. I don't even know her, I've never spoken to her, and there she is praying for me. So then finally last week met on Zoom. That was awesome. And now we're going to 2 conferences together. So, well, I'm definitely going to the one in the UK. We'll see if you're going to join the one in Switzerland. But I'm super excited about that. And this conversation, I believe, is going to take a whole new dimension, because I don't think we're going to get past question 1, as I said earlier. I do believe, Lindsey, that you've got a very strong call to the prophetic. But yeah, let's see how God is going to move that in your life. And yeah, her mind and her way of thinking is very rich and unique. So that's why I also don't believe we're going to get past question 1. I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this is going to go, and what has God got in store for us in the next session. Just really excited. So welcome, Lindsey. I would love to hear kind of your story, because I don't obviously know everything. We had a very short chat, and we always get off in different tangents of conversation. But I would love to hear just, how did you get to faith? How did you get into kind of your line of business, and how that all ties together? Just sort of your testimony, and really just how God leads, like whether it's more on the personal side or the business side. But yeah, love to know, how did Lindsey get to this point in life today?
Well, that's an enormous question.
Yes,
I'm absolutely delighted to be here. So thank you so much for having me on the show. As you said, we've been connected now through a couple of different people, which is always fascinating. Yes, we've now got two trips organised, which I'm really excited about.
So excited.
That was going to happen. I'll start by talking about my work, because that's what I'm most used to doing. I work for myself, I work in a secular space, and it's an absolute blessing to be here today talking about my faith journey, because it's not something I share often. But as you said, it's a huge part of what I do, and God has got an amazing plan coming, which we're just beginning to see the new season in that, which is wild.
Wow.
If I give you the background to how I got to where I am now. So I am, as you've said, psychologist and sophrologist, and I'm actually a legacy and wealth psychologist, and I do a lot of work with founders, family office, and leaders, mainly on legacy and what their purpose is. What are they doing with their work, their lives, their time, their energy, and their money? And everything I do is underpinned by this incredible method called sophrology. This is a method that started in Spain in the 1950s and 60s by a Spanish neuropsychiatrist called Caicedo, and he was giving people electric shock therapy for mental illness alongside the same time that Joseph Pilates was developing his Pilates method. Sophrology is a method of consciousness in harmony. So it's becoming conscious of who we are. And I often like to say it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, relational, and financial. Let's become conscious of all those facets of our energy body, because of course there's energy in all of those places. And a lot of us want to just lead with our clever brains. Some of us want to lead with our big, strong bodies. If you're a competitive athlete like I am, especially getting older, you'll notice your energy is declining and you're nowhere near as quick as you used to be. But if you're a highly competitive person, as all my clients are, I work mainly with ultra high net worths who are really pushing and achieving great things, which is great. But for some reason, it doesn't feel that great. So what's going on? That explains sort of where my faith comes in. How I got to where I am today, as you say, because I'm so youthful and approaching a very big birthday very soon, is a winding journey. So I started life in business consultancy. In the heady days of banking, I was working in an investment bank. I then went to work for a consultancy organisation. I spent some time in local government as a central government consultant, and then moved into organisational psychology and business development, and then ended up finding myself in France. Who knew that was going to happen?
Wow.
As a result, realised if I was going to work here, I was going to have to retrain in something that was recognised, and happened to come across, or God showed me, this method called Sophrology, which is a mind-body technique that's been used extensively in Spain, France, and Switzerland, and many other parts of Europe for years and years and years. It's available on prescription, and it's used both in a business context, in a health context. It's often used for cancer patients. It's used in childbirth. It's used in high performance. It's used in all of the sports teams. Most schools also have a sophrologist to support children with learning and anxiety. It's an incredible method, much like Pilates. It is a method, it's not subjective. We don't just sit in sessions and say, what do you want to talk about today? It's a 12-step method. There are a number of levels that we take clients through where they learn how to access consciousness. And what happens when we start thinking about consciousness? Well, of course, we end up having these conversations about higher power, grounding, God, orientation, inheritance, who we are, why we're born, what are we meant to be doing here on earth, and of course then what happens afterwards. What's the point? Because we can't store up our riches in heaven. The money here is for now, and it doesn't belong to us anyway. So it's a fascinating area of work.
Wow. I never heard of it before, by the way. It's all new to me.
And this is part of my mission now, to explore, because we spend a lot of time talking about consciousness, don't we? People want to go to yoga, they want to go to sound healing, they want to go to therapy, they want to become aware of themselves, self-development. There are millions, billions of pounds being spent on leadership development. How often do we talk about the conscious leader? You tell me, Anne-Marie, how often does it come up at work? Conscious leadership.
No, and I never heard of it there, really.
So we've got our brain, clever intelligence, we've got our physical body, and then there's this consciousness piece. So what is lovely about the way I work is I also link the consciousness piece to the nervous system. Nervous system can be tracked through biometric data. You'll see I'm wearing a wheat band. All my clients wear them because it allows me to see, okay, how conscious are we of where your energy is going? How are you sleeping, eating, breathing, moving? What is your nervous system doing? Are you in fight or flight every day of your life? You might be super fit. You might have a resting heart rate of 49, and all those people who are listening go, yeah, that's me. I'm really fit, heart rate's low. That's great, but what's your HRV? What's the variability in your heart rate? How relaxed are you? Because of course, when we're with Heavenly Father, ultimately we are there in that space of surrender, of peace. There is no fear, there is no condemnation. And for those people, the people that are able to go into that space, as per the work of Dr. Lisa Miller, we know, if you've read the Spiritual Child book or any of her work, The Awakened Brain, brilliant books, there is science behind the connectivity we have to spirituality having a massive impact on who we are physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, and financially.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, so I think it's funny because I don't prepare for these sessions because I just don't want to box in kind of how it goes. But then before I joined, I was looking at just some of the stuff, because usually what happens is when my week happens and the quiet time I have with God, or maybe conversations I have with people, somehow it's like puzzle pieces that all weave into a session that I have, a podcast session. That it's just the way that it works. I don't know why, but it's just God, you know. And so when you were talking about the nervous system, that to me kind of really links back to, I suppose, the topic of like identity, healing, inner healing, mind renewal, and like the peace. And so you working with all of these different people, do you ever weave in any of the kind of faith-related aspects of, you know, what you know about the word and how you know God works within the work that you do? Or do you keep it very like scientific and health related instead of almost, I don't want to say evangelize subtly, but sometimes I believe that we can, in a very clever and, you know, using God's wisdom way, get the love of Christ across to people and share without sharing directly like, oh, you got to get saved and you've got to, you know, read the Bible or whatever. So yeah, I'm just quite interested how that would work in practice. Or is it just that the people, because you obviously said you work with ultra high net clients, like net worth clients, so it's not, sometimes I wonder if it's more difficult for people at that caliber to kind of even be receptive to hearing anything about God. Or are they just so desperate for answers and freedom and peace because I've got everything, but why am I not feeling great? That maybe they are more open than actually to receive or not. So I'm just, how does that work? Is that sort of something that you do, or do you just keep it very...
I think the best part about that question is, how does it work? And my immediate response is, God does the work. Okay. I am hands and feet here on earth. My work is not aligned with any sect, religion, faith, or no. According to my insurance, of course, it wouldn't be. But we carry the fragrance of Christ with us, of course. Yeah. And I also feel I work with people over long periods of time. There's a real intimacy and there's a real anointing in those relationships. Yeah. And I'm very, very lucky to run a boutique business where I work with small numbers of people. Yeah. I think the biggest question for everybody is, what's the point? And what's the purpose? And you can't really have that conversation without talking about some concept of a higher power. Yeah. And while sophrology isn't a faith-based method, it is a method where we spend a lot of time being conscious of our ability to connect to the earth beneath us and our ability to connect to something greater than us. Yeah. And it's a physical body, so it's a physical practice as well as a mental practice. And I've got it obviously linked to the biometric data tracking, to a journaling process, and many other tools and techniques that I use that I've collected over the vast number of years I've been doing this work. Yeah. If you're saying to somebody, what are you drawing down? What are you connecting to? What values and capacities are important to you? Yeah. You're very close to having those conversations. Yeah. Are we going out and saying, here is the gospel, you must believe? Absolutely not. No, because I will tell you now that my Christian walk only started in 2013, and that's another conversation in a moment. But if somebody had turned up with a Bible and hit me over the head with it 20 years ago, I would have run even further away than I did from faith. So my job is to purely help people find that space to be still. And when we're still, of course, you know what happens. Well, what you tell me what happens in the Bible? Be still and...
I know that I'm God.
There you go. As soon as
there, He is just there.
As soon as we're present, and we begin to, do our sensory awareness. What can we hear, taste, touch, smell? What can I hear? Still small voice of calm. Oh, really? Whose voice is that? And it's not the voice that tells you you're utterly rubbish. And when I first started talking to my very, very successful clients about the voices in your head, they were sort of, and initially when I did it, people were sort of saying, do you think I've got some sort of mental illness? No, we all have all these voices. And, you can be using, parts, you can be using archetypes, you can be using all sorts of different secular methods to have these conversations.
Yeah.
But there are many, many voices in our heads. And the one that tells you you're utterly rubbish is not God.
No.
Your Heavenly Father speaks to you in a way that is so kind and so loving, with no condemnation.
Yes.
And when we hone ourselves into listening, and I've just been writing something this morning on the practice of listening.
Wow.
And also dreams. We'll talk about that in a minute, because I'm a huge believer in dream interpretation.
Yes.
Some people, you and I've talked about it, Christians going, dreaming, well, the Bible says constantly, dreams and visions are incredibly important to us.
Totally. Yes.
Here we are, the nations are on their knees. We are in an incredibly high conflict time. What is happening in the world? Well, we know that people are dreaming dreams, having visions, looking to fill this empty space inside of them. We could call it a God-shaped hole, or we could say it's something else. The search for meaning is incredible. Gen Z has gone, what were you doing before us parents? We are not following what you did because you look like you've made a mess of it.
Yeah.
They're going out on their own.
Yes.
And when we're parenting people from these different generations, and we're in a workplace with 4 different generations, we need to be looking at, okay, what is our shared mission here? What are my personal values and capacities? And why am I here? Why am I bothering? And especially in those ultra high net worth circles, I am not here for the cash. And I often say to people, do you need the money? They say, no, of course. So why are you doing what you're doing then?
Yeah.
I haven't thought about it. You and I have talked about zombie investing, zombie spending, zombie borrowing. Wake up, dry bones. We've got to start becoming conscious of how we spend our time, our money, our love, our finance. We've got to become aware physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally and financially. Yeah. And that's very challenging. Those conversations they are great conversations to have. And I told you, I've been super challenged recently about my own finances. What are you doing with your money? Where is it going? How does that reflect your faith? I don't know. That's not good enough.
Yeah. Yes. The stewardship aspect, right? Which is such a big topic in the Bible itself. It's just not just like it, because it's when you're talking about the consciousness of how you spend time and money and all these different things, it's essentially comes back to stewardship in the Bible as well. Like whatever God gives you, whether that is just your time or your money, because I think some people think stewardship is just linked to the money, but it's not. It's got all these different dimensions, and He trusts you to steward all those things well, even your relationships, like your husband, your children, your pets, I don't know, anything that He entrusts to you, you need to kind of be led by the Holy Spirit to manage all those things in a good way for Him to feel, okay, I can trust you with this. And then, obviously trust you with or faithful with a little, then He'll increase and kind of, expand the capacity. And I was just thinking back, because I think it was yesterday, I wrote it down on my book about capacity, which I just feel like randomly led to read this one, which is about, I think it was this lady called Prophetess Sharon Stone that was writing this. And this probably comes back more to like the nervous system and getting triggered and things like that, but also linked to capacity and the stewardship we just spoke about. And she was saying that, when things that triggered you before gave you anxiety, like for example, your financial thing is, not great, or you've got a bad medical report, maybe you're going through a divorce, maybe there is deaths that you just had to deal with. And those things would have initially been triggering you from an emotional perspective, that you kind of spiral and out of control, and now you're comfort eating, and I don't know, like kind of just going off the rails. And if that is something that doesn't kind of affect you anymore, that means that your capacity has been enlarged, because now you have that peace that surpasses all understanding. And she was using the word shalom, which actually means something around the lines of safe, whole, completeness, welfare, and peace. And when God is making you whole internally to handle those external pressures, because obviously when you've got a calling, He's going to like lead you higher and higher and higher, so the pressure is going to get more and more and more, because let's face it, like I'm not exactly probably facing the pressure at someone who's leading a mega church, but in order for you to get to the level where He needs you to be, he needs to prepare you bit by bit, and you will then start noticing it in the storm, like when we were speaking before, kind of like about all these enemy attacks and weird things happening, that when, okay, you've kind of going through those pressures and you are not actually affected by those, that is when he's expanded, or like your capacity has been enlarged, and now you can kind of feel the transformation, the shift that's happened inside of you, because you feel whole, because those things don't shake you anymore. And so, yeah, I don't know, I just kind of felt led to like talk about that, because I think God is in the middle of preparing us for a lot of those different things. It's not just that we have to almost worry about it, and he'll send people like, for example, you and the work that you're doing. You're helping people to understand that dynamic, but I think they're just more privileged to have someone that kind of, from a biblical perspective, you will be seeing things very differently than just someone that's just operating in the secular. I always say to people that, you know, or if you're a Christian, you're in the marketplace, or you've got your own business, or whatever it is that you do, you have got such a like unfair advantage which other people just don't have, because they just operating from their natural, so they don't really, you know.
I think it's so interesting what you've just said, and talking about that sort of stewardship, and if it's not hurting you anymore, does that mean your capacity's increased? That links to the very well-known leadership theory of window of tolerance. And what is so beautiful about the work I do is everything I see in the secular world, especially in secular leadership psychology, has got a biblical root to it. And if you follow any of the Christian therapists and coaches online, that this is all rooted in the gospel somewhere. And when we talk about these things, it gives me so much joy. We talk about the parable of the talents, or we talk about the prodigal son. You know, we don't have to use those exact stories.
No.
We can talk about, you know, redemption, and we can talk about healing, and we can talk about, we can frame it in a way that it can sit in the marketplace as a tool, I think, for people to experience the love of Christ. And it's exciting times, and it's exciting when people like you and I get to connect. You know, I've connected with a number of people through you already in a very short space of time. God can accelerate what is happening in our lives when we are ready for the next season. But what I see happen, Elma, is we go into the marketplace and people are saying, I want more. And I think, you're not equipped. You think you've done the work, but you haven't. And God will only bless us when we are ready. And if we haven't dealt with those roots, if we haven't been refined in the fire, he won't bless us with any more. So we're not working from abundance. We're not working from overflow. And when God makes you aware of that, as a Christian, it's a horrible feeling.
Sucks.
Because he says to you, you know, clearly you weren't ready, so you're not getting any more. And you have to sit there like, right, it's like a kid who hasn't eaten all their dinner. You can't have this. Now, we're not serving a punitive God, and we're not serving someone that's punishing, but we are called to be, you know, refined and grown. When you know that you haven't stewarded what you've been given well, you've been blessed with perhaps a child or a dog or a car or a house, and you didn't clean it, wash it, look after it, care for it. God calls you out on that. Did you steward what I gave you well? No, then you won't get any more. That is not popular, you know, worldview in the secular world. But we only need to look at the history of Israel and look at some of the other ways that the world has developed. God will bless us. He keeps his promises.
Yes, exactly.
Steward well, that doesn't mean being tight and hiding it in the ground. When you steward it well, it will overflow and abundance is yours. I'm sure there's a biblical verse in there which I haven't got. I think Tom, if we'll ask Tom, he'll tell me where it is.
Tom, you could like quote it in an instant.
You know, that is the refinement process, and that is the challenge. And I think that's where faith is so exciting, because there's so much more for all of us, more than our wildest dreams. When we do dream and we become available to dial into that relationship that's there for us, it changes everything. And that this conversation flows nicely now into a topic that came to my mind before we met, and I like looked through my notes, because, you know, what is God making stand out?
I had a conversation yesterday with my pastor coach, Pastor Mapefu in South Africa. She's at kind of the headquarters of my church. And so we meet once a month, and so she's a mind renewal coach, and so that's kind of her area of expertise. But I mean, within the church, she operates within deliverance and all kind of the gifts of the Spirit, and she's one of the leaders there. And I was asking her about because when you were talking about getting equipped and kind of being accelerated, like within sort of the assignment that God has on my life right now, and I've been in this weird kind of separation, or I suppose a pause, or I don't know, separation, isolation, I don't know what you want to call it, but I have really noticed that this is definitely a small period of being equipped and being healed. And so I said to her, okay, I am really struggling to accept that God died for me on the cross, and that I have to follow the cultural norm or beliefs that I will need they say, okay, you've gone through sort of a life event, and now you need 6 to 12 months to fully heal, and you need to do this, and you need to do that, and you need to do that. And so I said to her, well, does that apply to me as a Christian, as someone with the mind of Christ, and someone who has high faith and belief, that why can God let someone get up out of a wheelchair, but I have to now believe that I have to sit for 6 to 12 months waiting for inner healing, and kind of whatever. Why do I have to believe that? Because I went to this women's retreat randomly. I can't remember if I told you about. Yeah, I did tell you about the ladies from the Ivory Coast, and it was just this divine appointment. It's charity led, and my colleague I said no, and then he said, no, they've already paid for you, you've got to go, it's going to be amazing. And so I just rocked up there, didn't know anyone, and it just turned into this most supernatural, incredible 2 days I've ever kind of any conference that I've ever went to, because it was so unique and different to anything I've ever experienced. And I had these crazy visions. Every time I have a vision, then the person will kind of bring a word forth. I had one about, I saw like how God was stitching my heart, and I saw one of me lying underneath the water, but I was looking up, seeing Jesus above the water. And the third one was also very profound, of like I could see my heart, but the inside of my heart was almost like, if you think about the inside of a very fine, like a watch or a clock, like lots of little pieces and things. I could see the blood of Jesus washing through that. I'm not even joking. When I got back from that conference, I've always thought, as a Christian, I understood what it meant to have the peace that surpasses all understanding. But when I got back from that conference, and as we were speaking about like more attacks and things happening, it's like these things are happening. Usually I'd be like, maybe you get a medical report and I'm like there on ChatGPT. Okay, what's happening? Like, am I dying? I just couldn't care. It's like you just feel so much peace. And so I don't know, like I'm struggling to almost like believe that we have to be confined to culture and what people say, because if you are a new creation in Christ, then you could just receive whatever was done on the cross, right? So I don't know how you feel about that, because you're obviously working with people, and I know it's secular, but people that would come and want, I suppose, like in an aspect it is healing as well. Would you ever question that? Because there is this other angle of, oh my gosh, I can actually get healing at an accelerated level because God is for me. He's on my side. He died on the cross. I could just grab it. It's all about just belief and trust in Him and just receiving it, because it's just about rest, right? We don't have to work for anything. But then there's the other side where people will still maybe need help. So I don't know, from a professional perspective, plus you love God, how would you see that? Would you believe for yourself that I'm just going to get healed, or do you believe in the methods, the traditional methods or world methods? Okay, we're still going to go through the process.
I think
I don't know.
I'd answer that with absolutely. I don't believe in the world's methods at all. Miraculous things happen in my own life as well as other people's.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that trips us up as humans is if we do receive healing, physical, mental, emotional, that inner healing that you're talking about, if we receive it. And in fact, I watched Prophet Susan Slusher recently ran a session, and I actually sent it to somebody, and they were healed instantly. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. The problem is, of course, it can happen, but then because we are living in a fallen world, that we don't defend ourselves very well. So I think we can be wandering around thinking, I want healing, I'm looking for this great thing. But what we don't realise then is we need to do the work on defending ourselves and protecting.
Yeah, keeping it. Yes, like deliverance as well. You can't just get delivered and think, I'm going back to my old ways, and that's the worst thing. You'd have to stay in the Word, stay close to God, and keep what He gave you.
Isn't it? It's a bit like, I've decided I'm going to take Ozempic for 6 months. Brilliant. I'm not that fat. Okay, great. But I'm going to use Ozempic and stop eating. Brilliant. But you might lose all your muscles, but it doesn't matter because it's only for 6 months. And I have a coach every day. These are the kind of conversations I have. Okay, great. So you're going to use Ozempic, and it's really good for managing cravings, and I drink too much. Okay, great. So you should drink and you're going to get really thin. That's great. What's going to happen in 6 months' time? I'm going to get really fat again. Okay, because it doesn't last.
No.
How do we make it last? Well, we make it last by behaviour change. And as Christians, what's our behaviour change? Well, there's 3 things we're meant to do every day: pray, worship, and stay in the Word. Do we do those 3 things every day? No, so it doesn't last. So we go off on these things, and then we get distracted by the world, and we come back. And then people say, I just want to be a monk, or I just want to go on, when we all say that, don't we? I just need to go on a retreat to get it back again, and then we go on the retreat. It's like the juice retreat. Let's go on a retreat before we had Ozempic, of course, this was the thing. Or we'll go on a boot camp. But if you don't go to the gym, your muscles won't last. You can't just go to the gym for 6 months, get a big muscle. Yeah, look at my 6-pack. How are you going to maintain it? I'm not.
No.
So I think what you've said is funny. Of course it doesn't. Yes, the answer is yes, of course. God is almighty and all-powerful, and this is incredible. And I'm also lucky enough, maybe, to work in the addiction space.
Wow.
I know full well that radical things happen. People are healed. Resentments are taken away. Fear is replaced by love. I see it almost on a daily basis. These are incredible experiences. And this is why I love working with my clients so much, because I see things come in and it changes everything. Does it last? No, because they stop going to the gym because they can't be bothered. Because Netflix is calling their name, or their Saturday night Coke habit. Whatever it is, just stand firm. Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. Resist the enemy, and he will flee. I stopped resisting the biscuits, the wine, the pornography. I couldn't help myself. What are you doing instead? Well, I just had a big empty hole in myself, so I just filled it up with some. If we don't replace the hole. And I talked recently on a podcast about this hole being created by lack of parenting. You become very permissive parents. Some of the conversations I have with my friends and people parenting teenagers, just let them do it. They know what to do. Let them do. You let them do whatever they like. In the absence of parenting, what's going to rush in? Social media.
Yeah.
And then what is discipling them and what's disciplining them? Social media. And what's controlling their behaviour? Social media. When it should be the parent. It's like the same with food. If you don't feed your body, what's going to rush in? Rubbish.
Yeah. And that's where people sometimes want to go like, do I have a demon, or, what happened? But actually, no, you got sick because you were just eating junk food for a week and you were not even exercising or actually stewardship, back to that, the holy temple, the body that God gave you. Like, how are you looking after that? You can't just, I don't know, it's a bit like I've seen some people talk about how, people always want to run to deliverance and just, but I've got a demon and things like that. But there is sometimes other things going on that it's not, you can always just blame the demon. Like, there is other things going on. Like, well, what are you doing? Like, are you stewarding your body and your health and all these different things and looking after yourself? And that's maybe why you got sick, or that's maybe why you've now got whatever issue. I'm not obviously saying everything is linked to just health. Like, there are other diseases that just pop up which is not linked to diet or, whatever. But yeah, in general, it just feels that people just want to they want to find the scapegoat or someone to blame or something to blame instead of like taking accountability for some stuff. But even coming back to the people that might have, you know, these addictions and things, there's obviously, like, from a spiritual perspective, sometimes, you know, there could be like a demonic presence. And one of the pastors at our church was saying, you know, you can't counsel a demon. So they'll go there and then it's like, okay, well, they're just going to fall back because they didn't stand the word. They didn't, you know, they weren't kind of on that path. And then when I spoke to my pastor yesterday, she was saying that, you know, like at our church, they don't always kind of, you're not always like going in and then it's like, okay, you know, just get deliverance or whatever. Like sometimes there's some other aspects that they look at as well around, okay, you need to be like, are you planted in a church? Are you kind of in the word and things like that? Because let's face it, like when you know the truth will set you free. And there's so much in the word that can kind of give you that freedom. So they will look at, for example, you know, say, you know, like I was talking about my example with, okay, the inner healing. Okay, well, what lies are you believing? Are you believing a lie or a borrowed belief of some, you know, but the world said it's going to take me so long to do X. Okay, fine. Now that you've believed the lie, it creates an unbelief inside of you. Now you're doubting that God can't do it for you instantly. And now you're fearing because you're like, oh my gosh, like how long is it going to take me now to get my healing? So once, if you could cancel out like the lies and the unbeliefs and the fear that causes that fear, that sort of already solves a lot of problems for you. Because I think at the end of the day, most of what we believe is actually what brings us a lot of our issues. If you just believe a lie from Satan, it's the only way he can get you. It's just by whatever you come in agreement with whatever he said. So if you don't know the word and you're not standing on the word, on what God said, and you're going with what Satan said, now you're getting yourself into all these situations because it's like, oh my gosh, but I believed that, but that wasn't God. God wouldn't even say that. God would say, like, I have healing if he's died on the cross and things like that. So yeah, it's quite an interesting topic and just an interesting area to kind of dig deeper into. But I would love to know, so you obviously like talking about faith and stuff, how did you then get to your point of salvation? Like, what is that, 13 years ago? When did you say? 2013? That's a long time ago.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, wow.
Not really, because I remember I lived without any faith for 35 years. What happened? So I'm a product of an Alpha course.
Oh wow.
I was living the high life, thinking I knew it all, of course, and I was almighty and all powerful, but perhaps wasn't as happy as I thought I would be. And somebody invited me on an Alpha course. Yeah. In fact, I think they used the words, it's a course about the meaning of life. You're interested in psychology, you might want to come. And of course I said, oh, yes. I think that sounds very interesting. Where is it? And they said, oh, it's in this lovely house and it was in a nice area. And they said, then there'll be dinner and wine. And I thought, well, yes, sounds like a great, you should go. And I thought, well, you know, I'm not going to the pub tonight. I haven't got any dinner arrangements, so I might as well go. And it was literally that easy. I knocked on the door of this house. I didn't even know where I was going. And these very nice people invited me in. And they said, oh, you're here for the Alpha course. And I said, yeah, sorry, what's that about? And they said, oh, it's about Jesus. And I said, oh, might be a bit of a short thing actually, because it was sort of talking about the Easter Bunny and Christmas. I mean, I'm happy to stay, but yeah, really that interesting. They said, look, we've got wine and food and everyone's here. And I thought, oh, it looks nicely laid out, you know, nice. Yeah. Let's see what these jokers have got to say. I mean, I wasn't quite that rude, but I was so arrogant, it was ridiculous. And that is, you know, again, one of my biggest defects of character. I know about it now, and I know when the enemy is using that. So I marched in and started making chit chat, as I do, because I'll talk to anybody. Normally at the bus stop, drives my husband absolutely mad. But I thought, well, let's see what happens. And they start talking about the gospel. Jesus actually was the Son of God, and I thought, what an absolute ridiculous idea. Of course he wasn't. How would that work? He sent his only Son to save us. What? Of course he didn't. That's just not what this. Somebody appears, he's not born out of anybody, and then he gets killed and goes to heaven. I mean, absolutely. Go on, then prove it. Yeah. Of course, if any of you know, anybody listening has been on Alpha, you'll know, of course, they do prove it as much as, well, because nobody can disprove it. So the gospel is either true and of any consequence, or is not true and is, you know, and the consequences are also enormous. Either way, whatever the saying goes.
Yes.
So I managed to get through the 10 weeks asking questions like, is it like a gym membership? You decide to become a Christian, because I'm second generation unchurched. I was like, can you put it on hold? And I was aware I wasn't Catholic, because at one point I went to a Catholic school and they're like, well, you can't become a Catholic. And I was like, why can't you become a Catholic? It doesn't work like that. And then I actually went to university in Manchester, and I had a lot of Jewish friends, and I wasn't allowed to go to Friday night dinner, and I wanted to date this boy and he wouldn't date me. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, you're not Jewish. I was like, well, can I become Jewish? No, you can't become Jewish. I was like, well, this is a bit awkward. I'm white, so what other religions could I try and join? And I couldn't quite work out how it worked, so I just ignored it. And people talk to me about their religion and their faith, and I think, well, that's nice for you. Yeah, I haven't got one. Do you believe in God? Well, I must believe in something, but what is that? I've got absolutely no idea. But I'm not allowed to become Catholic, and I'm not allowed to become Jewish, so I've been a bit put off, really. And then when they said, oh, you can become a Christian, I was like, no, you can't just become a Christian, you have to be born one. Oh, no, you can become a Christian. Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh.
How does that work? So I'm like, so if you become a Christian, like what, you're in for life, it's like a cult, you're in, you can't get out. And I'm laughing, those people are so funny.
It's so funny.
Really like that, but why don't you see what happens? And of course, every week I kept thinking, I've got all these funny feelings in my body, and I've got this hot spot that God keeps turning up, like my body was burning up.
Burning, yeah.
And I was like, is there something wrong with me? And it keeps coming back, and I was like, that can't be you.
Wow.
And then of course we get to the Holy Spirit Day, and I was thinking, I'm not really sure this is a good idea. Mm-hmm. I've lived a sinful life, and I've done lots of things I wish I hadn't done, and I've lived, I didn't get, married at 16 and off I went in church. My life wasn't like that, and still wasn't at this point. So thinking, well, this could be a bit messy. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen now. Do you take Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Saviour? And I'm thinking, oof, this could go horribly wrong. But by that point, I'd already clocked the fact that God knows. He searches us and he knows us, and he knew us before he formed us in our mother's womb. So I was like, if the Bible's true, I'm probably going to be all right.
Yeah.
And remember, when they put their hands on you and they say, do you accept? And I'm thinking, this might really hurt. I'm not really sure.
Oh my God. Like the resistance is just hardcore.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. You're about to, I do a lot of cold water swimming. You're about to get in the cold water. Shall I? But this was worse because there's a bit of a commitment coming. Do you accept Jesus Christ? And yes, I do. And there it was. The Spirit came upon me, forever free of condemnation. It came through me like the worst condemnation ever, and then left, and it's never been back.
Wow.
And my life, then the cleanup starts.
And he does it.
He does it.
He does it.
Let him do it.
You're very aware.
Keeps doing it. So of course you think, well, like year one I'll be all right, and then I also remember I'd never been in church.
Wow. So ever in your whole life. So this is not
like in the evangelical, like I'd been to stand up, sit down, Anglican services, and I'd been to Catholic services, and I'd been to everybody's weddings. Everyone got married in church. So off I went to a pretty small evangelical church, Spirit-filled, and of course I got there, and it was like walking into when you walk into a concert, like if you go to Wembley or something, and like the sound's so loud it goes through you.
Yes.
It was going through me, and I was like, this is hideous.
Wow.
I cried and I cried and I cried, and it just went on for months and months and months. And it was a deeply unpleasant experience in a way, but it was a homecoming.
Wow, gosh.
When I came home to my Heavenly Father, free of condemnation, my life was changed forever.
Yeah.
And even if I only tell one person, my work here on earth, I think is probably done.
Yeah.
And when I got baptised, somebody highly esteemed in the church, who knew a friend of mine, said to this friend of mine, of all the people that was going to end up coming to Christ, it wouldn't have been Lindsey on my list. And I think, yes, God, there's a testimony.
Awesome, yes.
If he can catch me and I move really quick, and of course I've got no need for God because I'm so amazing myself, so I thought.
Yeah.
And even today, the more faith we have, the more we need. It's just this, I can't even describe it.
Yeah, it's a longing. I don't know, it's like it's a bit like when I get to the evenings and you spend your time with God, it's just like, I don't don't know. Also, it's hard to put it in words because it's just the time that you sit with him, and it's just you and him, and you're just kind of there. And you don't even, sometimes it's not like you're sitting there forever, like doing a warfare prayer or, like just reading. But sometimes it's just like you were even saying earlier about just being still. You are just there, just sitting still. And then even in that, he speaks.
He's speaking all the time, but we're not listening. And I had a real
so busy
of like this, we've got to clean our ears out. So busy. And I'm currently in a round of interviews, senior leader interviews about burnout and all the things that I deal with. And they just keep saying to me, it's just I can't hear anything. It's too busy. There's too much noise.
Yeah.
The world is so loud. There is so much communication. Our bodies are not designed to handle this. We must have wilderness time. We must step away and be with whatever you want to call is this thing. Yeah. And I am absolutely convinced when you do that, you will hear the still small voice.
Yeah, definitely.
If you don't do it and you carry on being busy, then you'll just be dead.
Yes.
That's not.
And I have to say the Alpha course seems to be it works, because Ian that introduced us, he also got saved through Alpha course. And then one of my old bosses at work, she started the Alpha course last year. Was it this year? I can't remember, but I went for lunch with her and she said, Al, I just wanted to let you know that I've started the Alpha course. And this is after she had an invite from one of her evangelical friends to go to this marriage retreat in the US with her husband, and then kind of came back to the UK. And then, she was, I haven't kind of checked in with her, like where she's at, or she's still going through it or what happened, but it's something that works. And you were saying, obviously, you've got 2 daughters. Do they fall under Gen Z or no? I don't know the categories, but
they're Gen Z kids.
Yeah,
and they're looking into the world, going, "What? Sorry, what?
Yeah,
why am I doing this?"
Yeah, because it's such a different angle, like from where we came from and where they're growing up. It feels like whenever I look at stats or things popping up on Instagram or wherever on social media, just about this quiet revival from the UK perspective. I don't know what it's like where you live, but just quiet revival, Gen Z, like they're just sick and tired, like they don't really care anymore about what their parents did or what's going on. They just want the truth, and they're finding the truth in Jesus, and that's kind of how they're moving forward.
I think they're so sick of ordering stuff on the internet, whatever it is, wherever they're getting these pots. They're so sick of it. They're like, why am I doing this? They're not stupid.
No.
And this is where the consciousness piece comes in. And I remember my daughter at quite a young age doing a recipe she'd seen on the internet and saying, "Oh, this didn't work."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, because it's not real." And she's like, "I don't understand. Like, it's not a real. These aren't real things we're looking at." But it's delivered as if it is factual and real. And the fact that X percentage of Gen Zs are getting their news off TikTok.
Yes.
This is a disaster.
Yes.
But what is exciting, of course, is if we're going to believe the truth that the news is on TikTok, then we might go as far as to believe there is a God. And then we might even be able to stretch our imaginations from our hearts and not our heads to believe that the gospel is true. Yeah. And that's exciting. Yeah. Because if we're going to believe that the 2-minute TikTok chocolate muffin recipe, if you eat it, they will have the same effect as a Zempic, you might be able to contemplate that there might be a God, and that there might have been somebody that had a plan for you, and that you might have been purposefully made, and that he might know the plans he has for you, plans to prosper, not to harm you. And you might believe that you're free from condemnation, and that you're actually able to be his hands and feet here on earth.
Yeah.
Radical? Not if you're going to believe the TikTok muffin recipes.
No, exactly. And I have to say, the first time I saw TikTok, whenever that was, I think, I was just thinking, I don't know, in my mind, the thought that went through my head, because you've got Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, it varies a little bit from each other, right? When I saw TikTok, I just thought, what happened to the human race? Like, have we dumbed down to like this level of these random things that people post that is just not very rich or intellectual? I don't know, like it's the most random things that go viral, and this is what the human race follows. likes and watches and people making money off. It just blew my mind. I don't know. I couldn't.
But look at, anybody listening now, look at your screen time. What are you doing all day? Oh, I'm sending WhatsApps to who? I do it to myself. What was I doing all day? Absolute rubbish. And then I say I'm tired or I haven't got time to read my Bible. That's just ridiculous.
Yes.
But you're right. We've come to a point now where it's almost so ridiculous. As soon as we're conscious of this zombie behaviour, we can change it. And I think we're getting really close to that awakening.
Yeah.
Where we suddenly go, hang on, I'm not going to entertain this anymore.
No.
And I podcast, so I spend a long time in front of a screen. I spend a lot of time listening to myself, and I spend a lot of time looking at myself. And that's a conscious decision to almost disassociate myself from whoever this person is.
Yeah.
The person on that podcast is just, I don't even know who that is. It's just what happens.
Yes.
Does it matter what they look like or sound like or say? It's got nothing to do with me.
No.
It's the weirdest depersonalization, I'm sure.
I get it, totally.
Yeah, they're having
sometimes I look back and I'm like, I don't even know how did I say that. But I know obviously God will speak through the content that he wants. But it's surprising when you look back at it and go, I didn't even know how did I remember that or even think about that thing.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
But it also doesn't, and I see this in things like AA all the time, where somebody will share something and not really know why they're sharing it, and it will land with somebody and it's so crucial to that person's support.
Yes.
And
yes.
This is not conscious words coming out that I've thought of in my brain. No. This is something else, your higher power, maybe even God, using you as a vessel. Make me vessel. Make me, there's treasure in jars of clay. Just let it out.
Yes.
And I think that when we realise that's how we operate, that's what we're here to do.
Yes.
And this is a good test for people listening, actually. If you don't think that's true, next time you're in the car or you're walking down the street, stare at somebody and see if they look back. They will. How did they know they were looking at you? Because our radars are doing stuff we didn't know they were doing.
In the spirit, and when you've got the Holy Spirit operating through you, and I think I'm not saying it's the only time he can use you as if you fully surrendered, but I believe if you are fully surrendered and you are like, God, here I am, send me, do whatever you will through me, and you're really obedient with that, I think that is when you step into the territory of seeing the supernatural and the crazy things happen. And every day there's like a weird thing or a testimony, or you've shared something, or you've spoken to someone on the street or prayed for someone, and it's like, just like, I don't know, like I've had my mind just blown with things and people saying things to me, and I'm like, you won't believe, I just wrote this thing in my book and you just saying this to me, or you just voice noted this to me, and sometimes it's not even a believer. Sometimes there'll be an unbeliever saying something.
I have heard biblical verses come out of non-believers' mouths who I know have read the Bible.
Yes.
When it happens, I think this is hilarious because maybe I'm imagining it, or maybe that just happened.
Yeah.
I really want to talk about dreams today, and I also want to say as part of this, we do go through wilderness times. And for anybody listening thinking that's not my experience, maybe it's not the season, but God is always talking, but we're not always listening. And sometimes this is really small. Yes. And sometimes he's speaking to you in a way that you're not picking up because you haven't tuned yourself in.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to tune up, that's where I think a conversation with, iron sharpens iron. Make sure you've got the armour on. Go out and have that conversation with somebody else who you trust, who's walking in faith as well.
Yes.
And just, being in that space where you can tune in.
Yes.
But it isn't constant, but you and I are in a season at the moment where it's coming. And every day I just laugh. I just think it's like a crazy roller coaster.
Yes.
Buckle up, we're off again today. I'm like, woo!
What is the interesting
what's gonna happen
attack for the day? What have you got today, Satan?
It comes from both sides, of course, because the more we're walking in the Holy Spirit, the more that the other spirits are getting a little bit angsty.
Yeah.
What's that book? The One Thing You'll Never Do in Heaven. Evangelize, or what's the other one? Famous in hell or something. You want to be really famous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really, really funny.
Yeah.
Yes, let's talk about dreams.
Yes, because I want to know, because do you dream a lot? Are you a big dreamer?
Well, I must be, because I'm asleep a lot. So
Okay.
the answer is yes. Do I remember any of them and do I know what to do with them? No. This is a very secular conversation. We should have put this at the beginning of the show to reel people in, because dream interpretation is so important, and we know that old men will dream dreams, young men will have visions, and we know people are having dreams and visions walking into churches. We know the spirit moves in that way. So does the enemy. So I think we need to be very mindful of what we're dreaming. And when we want the mind of Christ, we need to stay in the Word. Dream interpretation, you and I both talked about AI being incredible here from a biblical perspective. The Bible is in AI, and it's very useful if you direct it correctly and use discernment. But when we allow ourselves to be mindful of our dreams, so before we go to bed, we're conscious about, I would like to dream tonight. I would like to remember my dreams. I would like my dreams to speak to me. I would like to really become open and available to this space. What we focus on, we move towards. If you're ever doing any sports and you focus on a point, you will invariably end up heading towards it. It's just the way it works. We can go into the quantum physics of why that happens or not. But going to bed with that intention, and then that practice of when you wake up being very mindful of, I am not yet awake, I'm in that space of being able to remember, okay, what, before your body even moves, the alarm goes off, I'm here, I'm present. God, what did you say to me?
Yes.
Write it down, be conscious, be aware, and then you can do the interpretation on it.
Yeah. And I think that's the method I have, because I'm a massive dreamer. So I have, if I go on my Gmail, I can probably pull up like 300 dreams in the last year. Just, I wake up, as soon as I remember my dream, I'll just like email myself the whole dream. And then obviously just leave it there, because it's like the morning's a bit of a rush sometimes, but then I'll come back and I do the interpretation. So I've explained to many people before that I had this book that was on, I don't know if people know about Sid Roth's Supernatural. He's a guy that's, I think I told you about it, like he's been around for forever. He used to be Jewish and then he got saved, and now he's got this channel where all the who's who will go and share testimonies and like with their massive ministries and stuff, but all about the supernatural and the impossible that's possible will go and be interviewed there. And so these two people that wrote this book called The Divinity Code, Dreams and Visions Decoding Book, they were on his show. And then the ministry TSNL that I got my deliverance through 2 years ago, Apostle Daniel Adams, he also recommended it. And then this couple that was in ministry that when I first started out from Nigeria, they recommended it. So it was like so many varied sources that recommended this book that I never knew about, but because it's like none of them knew each other, so it's not like they're all in their little group and they only like this book. It's like so varied. And so then I would sit, and I mean, it would take, I just got overwhelmed because the dream is so long. Now you have to go and page through hundreds of pages to get, what does it mean, a car, number 7, this, that. But now with AI, it's so easy because you can kind of put your prompt in and really pull out, asking AI to use that book and use the Bible only those two, pull out the themes and then create kind of the categories of themes based on your dream. And honestly, when I say it has not failed, it has given me information about like a neighbor or this one's job, or like I would go through a season and then when I read back on the dreams, it's like, oh gosh, I should have just gone back and read my dreams interpretations, because it would have warned me about what I shouldn't have done, but I just didn't even think about going back. Or if I have to make a life decision and there's maybe some person involved, then I will go and look in my Gmail, dreams plus the person's name, and then I'm like looking through all the dreams, like what did God speak to me over maybe the last year about this specific thing. And it has not failed till to date. Even this week I had another dream and I couldn't believe it, because it was even, I don't know, just saying stuff about, being in this season that I'm in, and where is it? It's even like I've put it in my email here, and just about preparing you for a new season of ministry or hosting people spiritually. God is revealing your identity and heart before the next step. I've just gone through the identity and the heart visions at the women's retreat, connection and collaboration and a future ministry movement, which was like a person that was in my dream. And it's just, it doesn't fail. Like the method works. But obviously, I always say to people, like, I'm not using it as like, this is the all, like this is the only way. Yes, you're going to have your circle of counsel, people that have got wisdom, if there's very like serious things in there to kind of discuss with you, or maybe you need to intercede on something specifically, like for example, one of my daughters, God has been warning me for ages about her, and praying for her, interceding for her. I'm not even joking. I went to the women's retreat, and this lady that I've never met in my life walks up to me. She says to me, "Hi, have you got children?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've got 2 daughters. Are they okay?" And I knew immediately what she said. I'm like, I know why you're saying that. I'm like, the one needs prayer, like deliverance, like there's something there and she needs specific prayer. She's like, "Yes, I know, but I didn't want to say it, and I didn't want to step because we've not met, and I didn't want to feel like emotional." She was kind of just being very careful. I'm like, "No, I've been praying to God for help for her." And this lady then messaged me afterwards, and this is after the dreams have already told me what's happening. So then tantrums isn't maybe just tantrums, they may be something more spiritual, because there was a next level of what I was experiencing. Then this lady like called me, and she had specific verse in the Bible pointed out and praying for me. Now she's got these people praying. And I'm not joking, Lindsey, this week I've seen a shift, legit seen a shift in my daughter's life. And this is how God works. It's supernatural, and you can't make it up, because what is the odds of that happening?
There is no odds, and praise God for that, because it's all available to us. Yet here we are going to, moon healings, tarot cards, and fortune tellers, which is a great, that's great. But these counterfeits are so close. That we have believed those instead because it feels more palatable. And gosh, that's a bit like, I'm going to eat fake meat because it's easier to get than real meat. But the real meat is the real meat. But the fake meat's like, okay, it does make me feel a bit, it doesn't really last. That's where I'm excited about what's coming, because here is the truth, the way, the truth, and the light. And it is exciting, and I think people are so close to this. And when we share our conversations, and you and I will do a podcast on dreams, because it's a very secular, it's a sexy secular thing to talk about. And I think we can then start really unpacking that in a much more there's a biblical framework here. Definitely.
And dreams is all throughout the Bible, so that's why some of the biggest people like Joseph, I don't know, it's the same as what people say, but prophecy is not for today. But like, the Bible is one big prophetic act. We are now in the book of Revelation, of prophetic timing and prophetic events unfolding in our lives and in the world. And like the Middle East happening right now is all in the Bible. It's just going tick, tick, tick.
I think it's fascinating.
Some people deny it.
It's so fascinating, but it comes with so many other conversations, and all we can do is go out there and share our own experience, strength, and hope with what's happening in our own lives and what we know to be true. And nobody can deny that. So
no,
so much more we could talk about.
Exactly.
I would just really ask people to really think about what they do believe, and think about being still, because if you can't be still, what are you running away from? And if you're tired, then be still. That's the solution. I think it's an absolute pleasure to be here. The work that you're doing is wonderful. We've already connected with so many other people as well. So
I know. No, I feel so, honestly, thank you for coming on my podcast. And I don't even know what word to use. I feel like it's like this British word is like that they love to say. It's like, I'm just buzzing, to kind of whatever is to come, because God is so intentional about the connections that He puts on our path and the people that He brings into your circle. It's not just by the way, there's just that person, or like He's very intentional. And just that I'll be physically meeting you in May and then like seeing you, which is surreal that you'll be here. I'm really thankful that you came on the podcast. And I suppose I know you have a very high net worth, if any high net worth person is watching this, want to get connected with you and kind of make use of your services and, you know, just go through like all the methods and all the amazing things that you are doing, is what website, or are you on LinkedIn? Like, what is the best way for people to reach you? Then they can
Lindsey Frances on LinkedIn. I work one-to-one. I also deliver group work, corporate work, senior leadership work, and I'm also really excited to be partnered with an organisation around women in wealth. So if anybody is a woman with wealth or interested in investing, that's something that's opening up. Please get in touch. I love a chat with anybody and everybody about many different subjects, but also if you've got a wheat band and you want to see if you might meet God through your wheat band, I'd love to have that conversation as well.
Yeah, and you're a keynote speaker because you'll be one of the people at the Women's Retreat in May.
Absolutely.
Who will be one of the speakers there. So yeah, if you need a very influential, amazing speaker for one of your events, Lindsey Frances.
Your Health Advisory Services, here we come. Thank you so much.
Exactly. I love it.
See you.
Oh, anyways, all right, well, let's go, and I probably need to kind of get ready also for school runs and all of those things, but it was so lovely to have you on my podcast, Lindsey, and yeah, I'm sure we'll be in touch soon, and yeah, thank you so much.